Welcome now to the third session of our memory forensics using volatility. For this session, we'll further look at some of the operations that we can use as we analyze some of the sampled memory images that we've captured. So why don't you join me and hope you have a good time learning. First thing that we can consider is to analyze some of the network connections. Volatility is able to analyze and present to you some of the information, especially on the network traffic that has been generated from your host all the way to whatever the destination is. I think this is very valuable, especially if you try to know and understand if your host is communicating to to another host, another server, or to a command and control server. The commands that we can use are the following: connections, netscans, sockets, conscan. This is helpful especially if you are analyzing XP and Server 2003 images. These plugins will help you identify some of those network connections. Why don't we jump into our demonstration so we can see how this plugin works. So let's start with the first plugin called connections. So connections, so we use our volatility again, connections, plugin. Basically, this plugin tries to understand what types of TCP communication that were actually happening at that point of memory acquisition. Again, it's very vital for you to know what type of TCP communication is actually happening. Where is it? Is it on internal network, external network? For this particular memory sample, it seems like we are not getting any, but it's okay. We'll move on to a different plugin. Another plugin that you can use is NetScan. So NetScan tries to display to you some of the network processes and network connections, whether TCP or UDP endpoints, and from which types of, who are the owners of those network connection, which services or applications that traffic comes from. Unfortunately, for this particular image, it is not supported because on NetScan is only useful for particular profile. What we can use for this profile is conscan instead. CONScan. This plugin has the almost similar functionality, but that can work for this particular image file. And see, as we can see here on the output of this, again, we're not doing any analysis, but it tells us that the local address, which is us here, seems to be communicating to a remote address, this particular IP, using a port 6666. And that this is coming from a process ID 1956. But we'll look further into that in a moment. Another networking plugin that we can use is what we call as your sockets. On this particular plugin, it displays your very much similar to what we discussed with network scan. It just displays you all the process ID, the port, and also the address active TCP and UDP connections happening at that point in time. We have the process ID from where is that coming from, which network connection is that coming from. Again, helpful on our analysis as well, and also some of those times as well from where we actually detected that network connection. As we move further, we can look at some of the other plugins in relation to password and credentials recovery. Some of those plugins that Volatility has offered for us are the following: Hashdump, LSA dump, and Cache dump as well. So let's see it in action in a moment. So let us give a try if the plugin Hashdump will give us some sort of output for us. Hashdump here, this plugin will give us the ability to extract those credentials that are stored in the memory in the registry hive. It seems like for this particular version, for this particular memory image, we may not have the ability to extract those. That's fine. We can move on to LSA dump meanwhile. So LSA dump now will try to look at and examine if there are LSA secrets or that are found on your registry hive. But again, there seems to be nothing here as well. And there is an error there that says, yep, unable to read LSA secrets from registry. That's fine. We can move on to show another one, which is your cache depth. And again, let's examine if this particular memory image may have that. And again, similar to what we have from the first and from the second, it seems like we are not able to read hashes from from the registry for this particular image. That's fine. That's not a problem. We can just move on to the next phase of our investigation. As we move on, we can look at further plugins that we can use. And I think this is one of the more useful for us, helpful for us as we try to examine really what are the commands that an attacker or a threat actor would actually do or enter into the command line prompt. So two of those plugins that you may use are the following: the CMD scan and this consoles plugin. So let's jump into the demonstration of that. First plugin that we can look at is the CMD scan. CMD scan. Basically, this tries to extract all the commands that has been input or that has been entered into the command prompt. And as you can see here, it's quite telling already that it seems like this particular image is querying a file called malware, again, which will be helpful in further analysis later. And he seems like he tried to do it once. At the beginning, there is a spelling mistake, and he was able to query that on the next command execution from the command line prompt. Next plugin is what we call as the consoles plugin. Again, very much similar to your CMD scan, but this one gives us, as per the command reference from GitHub, it gives us the original console window title, the current console window title. It tells us the name and the PID of the attached processes as well, and lots of other helpful information for us. As you can see here, it seems like this is something that we can use in our analysis here. Let's jump into the stuff here. So as you can see here, seems like he queried this from this location, and it tells us of the following information as well. I think these particular commands and plugins are just really helpful in your analysis, so let's always remember these two. There are other useful plugins, many of them that we haven't tackled for this session, but I highly suggest that you look through the GitHub page of Volatility Foundation, and I'm linking this one on our slide here. It's quite wonderful, and it's just very comprehensive as well, so let's jump into that web page. So you get more command references here from the Volatility GitHub page, and again, there's tons and tons of resources for you. So we haven't looked at DLL list as well. So we'll jump into that, and again, it lists down for you all the DLLs that are actually part of what is that DLL. Here, so it lists down all the DLLs that are being accessed by the memory space during that time, and we can look at some kernel memories as well. File scan is important too. We look at networking, registry as well, so if we want to export or look at the hives and some of the shim cache as well. Again, really useful when we move into some of our analysis phase here. So I hope that has been helpful, and we look at some of the basic plugins in memory forensics using Volatility. We look at network connection, some of the command line history as well using CMD scan and consoles. We look at the Volatility GitHub page where you have some of the command references. Wonderful tool, tons of resources for you. So I hope that you've learned something from this session, and hope that this is a productive session for you. I will hope to see you in the next session. So I hope that this has been a productive session for you, and I hope that you enjoy your learning memory forensics using Volatility and some of the exploring I hope that this has been a productive session for you, and I hope that you gain some understanding as we learn volatility and some of the further commands that we can use. We look at networking plugins, we look at the console plugins as well, and we look at the GitHub page for further reference and tons of resources for you. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope to see you in the next session.